connecting and going live?
Yeah, yours says live now, Jessica.
Oh, okay, yes. Awesome, because it doesn't say on mine yet. Okay, perfect. So, hello, I'm Jessica Buck, Adult Services Librarian, and I'm joined by Library Associate Sophia Navarro. She's right there. I'm not sure where she is, actually, which box you're in on the live.
I'm seeing it on mine.
Perfect. Okay. It looks like you're below. She's on the bottom. We're so happy to welcome you to the Escondido Public Library Virtual Author Chat Series. This series is sponsored by the Escondido Public Library, Friends of the Escondido Public Library, and in partnership with the Ripped Bodice Bookstore. In the series, we'll be talking to authors of all genres and covering topics from diversity and representation to the world of publishing and writing. Today, we will be speaking with graphic novel / comic writer Ananth Hirsh and cartoonist Yuko Ota.
Hi, I'm Sophia. Before Jessica introduces our authors, we want you to know that during this chat, we will be monitoring the comments. So if you have any questions about what you hear here or any questions for our authors, please feel free to add those in the comments and we will try to get those answered.
Yes, thank you so much, Sophia. Okay, so our authors, Ananth Hirsh and Yuko Ota, are the critically acclaimed and award-winning creators behind Johnny Wonder. They've been making comics under their label for over 10 years. Their bibliography includes the award-winning Our Cats Are More Famous Than Us and Lucky Penny, as well as many self-published books, including Offhand, Cuttings, and more. Their current work is Barbarous, an ongoing comedy drama about a wizard school dropout and a monstrous familiar. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited and a little bit nervous, but mostly excited. So before we kind of dive into the questions, we just want to hear a little bit more about you and kind of your journey in this world of comics and novels.
Oh my gosh.
No pressure.
I started making comics probably around age 15. I started my first webcomic around then. I was in high school. I got a small readership and I just kind of never stopped. I went to school for animation because I thought that cartooning wasn't a viable job, and then I realized that I didn't enjoy animation. So then after college, I wound up getting hired to do kids comics, and then I started self-publishing and working with publishers.
I think for me, I think I actually drew comics that my friends would write in high school, and we had like one of my other friends put together like a zine or something. So that was my first time sort of doing it in an organized way. And I think that was before I knew like what a zine was, or like, you know, I didn't know the word, but conceptually that's what it was. And then in college, I made a friend and we started a webcomic together that ran for a while. That was, I think it started in my sophomore year of college, and I ended up juggling it with like classes and stuff. And then we kept it going after college for quite a while. And then I think at some point we started working together, maybe in like 2008 or something.
2008.
And that was kind of when I think a lot of our, like my published stuff started to crystallize a lot more. So yeah, I think, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into our official questions. So tell us more about your books and tell us a little bit about your label too and how that kind of began.
Oh, okay, so I'll just mention the label was basically meant to be like an umbrella catch-all, because I think we realized that I don't want to say we wouldn't have the attention span, but we wanted to try out doing lots of different kinds of comics. And so it made more sense to, you know, like pick an umbrella term and then have all on the website. And you had the name Johnny Wonder kind of like lying around from...
It was the name of an OC. One of my old original characters from high school. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that anywhere.
Wow, the Yuko lore. Okay. And then and then yeah, from there we just started posting comics on it, and for a while it was like all our web comics. Then we sort of like dipped our feet into fiction a little bit,
Yeah.
but we did like short stories and they got longer and longer. So
Mhm.
kind of worked our way up to Lucky Penny, and then Barbarous is what we're doing now.
Mhm.
So do you want to talk about like the books in particular, or
Yeah.
we have this big pile?
Yeah, we have. Oh, jeez. We have this enormous pile of books.
They're so pretty.
that we really, you can tell that we really like the color pink because all of our books have
It's
some
all-
amount of pink on
All
them.
color coordinated.
BMYK.
Yeah. So we started out together doing Autobio stuff. So this is actually
Sophia,
our
this
personal
one book that you have.
version of Our Cats Are More Famous Than Us, which is Autobio Comics. So the interior is exactly the same, but this is a cover that you can only get through us.
Yeah, so this is basically co-published with Oni Press. We worked out a pretty like interesting deal where we can release our own copy of the book and sell it at conventions and stuff and through our own website, but then all like book market, libraries and stuff like that, all goes through Oni Press. So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
So these are the Slice of Life comics. This is like 7 years worth of like comics. We would post I think 2 weekly for ages.
I don't know if I can really
there's
flip through this
There's
very
so
well.
many.
Is it possible?
And then
Flip through them, kind of. Oh, can you hear our cat? He's screaming.
if you've read about our cat, he's outside and he wants to come inside.
Is it Rook or Cricket?
Rook.
It's Rook.
Yeah. And then there's Wander. This is a collection of travelogue comics. Every time we would take a trip together, I would do journal comics. And then this is a small collection that came out last year or the year before, collecting all of those.
And this one was actually designed by, we teamed up with Patrick Crotty. So he is like the head honcho of, not the head honcho, but he's like, he does a lot of the design and he runs Piao Press. Their books are absolutely gorgeous. And I came across them at, I think, SPX a couple of years ago and kind of kept in touch and wanted to work with them on a book. And then, so that's our Autobio Comics. And then Lucky Penny.
Yeah. This was Lucky Penny. This is the
Yeah.
limited edition of Lucky Penny, which you can also only get through us. This is like the hardcover one. This is like a romantic comedy. We published it with Oni Press. We wanted to do like a late 80s, early 90s kind of romance novel that has like this.
You know, like the Danielle Steele covers where it's
Yeah.
like the foil.
Oh yeah.
You know, like a foil title. And
So we wanted to do an homage to that because the main character is obsessed with romance novels. Here's our cool author photo that I drew in like 10 seconds as a joke, and then Ananth was like, let's use it. And then we have done a bunch of, we've done a couple of art books. This is
cool.
This is Offhand. It's a collection of non-dominant handed drawings and comics that I did while I was dealing with a hand injury. This is more of like an art book and short story collection. You can also get those through us.
Yeah. Yeah, and these were self-published.
And oh my gosh.
Trying to be organized a little
Yeah.
bit.
And I'll just mention to the viewers that all of your links are in the description of the video, including the link to the store on your website.
Thank you so much. And then this is Barbarous. This is the thing that we're working on right now. You can read it all for free at johnnywander.com. You can read most of the comics that I've shown off for free at johnnywander.com. So this is like entirely self-published by us. You can buy these online.
We did them in like an oversized magazine style because I think we wanted to kind of do an nod at like the French album style of like European comics. And also Yuko's drawings look really cool, like big.
Wait,
I don't know if you have like a good spread you can show.
let me find a late page.
The
Yeah,
colors
I've
are
been reading them on the website. I love them. The art is just so cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we're able to show off how
They're huge, yeah.
my art in like a huge format. But this is kind of like we mentioned before, it's kind of like like a drama, fantasy, comedy, romance about a girl who has dropped out of wizard college, and she has been hired at a mysterious apartment building to work with the superintendent, who is a gigantic monster man.
Yeah, and then we have, oh, and then we've collaborated with a couple of other artists on books that are sort of outside of the work that we do just between the two of us. So I've worked with Tess Stone in the past on this book, Buzz, which is also from Oni Press. It's basically like a shonen spelling bee. It's an all-in-one book, so the entire story is there.
Extremely good typography. There's some really good. He does like the best typography tricks, and this is like his early work. His stuff is so good now.
Yeah, that was a really fun book. That one we did years ago, and it took us a while to kind of get our stuff together and get our schedules lined up, but we're actually now collaborating on another book together that's going to come out from Random House Graphic. Greater Secrets is the working title, but you know, sometimes that changes, so it could be different. And then we're also collaborating with Jen Doyle, who does a comic called Knights Errant. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. We also co-wrote a comic for Abrams that is being drawn by Jen Doyle that will be called Pixels of You, and I think that one will be coming out before Greater Secrets.
I think
maybe
so, but you know, things are kind of crazy right now, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that finally, I think we wrapped it up. So
sorry, we've made a lot of books.
Sorry about that. That was, yeah.
Okay, tell us about your Kickstarter for Barbarous. There's a few days left for chapter 4.
Yes, there's 3 days left. It is ending on Friday. So if you want to get a copy of chapter 4, this is a great time to do it. We showed off chapters 1 through 3. It's going to be in the exact same format, like the oversized French album magazine style. It's full color. You'll be able to pick up also volumes 1 through 3. And it turns out this is our 10th Kickstarter. We've been doing this for a little while, I guess.
Yeah. And then there's a bunch of like original art and like prints and stickers and stuff too. So,
yep.
You know, if any of that sounds interesting, check it out.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have a few Facebook questions. So I'm going to ask one of them now because I think it's a good time. How does collaborating on a project change the work process from working solo? This is from Joseph.
So for us, it's really unusual because we live and work together out of the same apartments. Our office is just one of the bedrooms in our apartment, and our desks are separated by a bookcase that's partially see-through, so we can basically see each other and like talk to each other all day. So it's kind of like our brains are melded all of the time.
Yeah, so I think because we get to basically work in pretty close proximity, a lot of the process, ultimately, I think that we write down that the roles are Yuko is the artist, and then I'm like the writer, and I do a lot of the design and production stuff too, but a lot of that overlaps. So we'll always check in with each other, say, hey, do these thumbnails look good? Hey, these does this dialogue look good? How do you think this design is coming along so far? So it's pretty like, I don't know.
It's pretty fluid.
Pretty fluid, yeah.
And things will even change, like as I have worked on the art, lines will change based on how communicative or emotive the lines are, or how well they fit. Like lines will sometimes just get cut entirely if the art communicates the line strong enough and it becomes redundant. So for us in particular, it's very unusual, I think.
Yeah, I think we're usually like, we don't like step on each other's toes, but it's like very, we're in each other's desk spaces. Like, yeah.
Awesome. That kind of fits well with our next question. Where do you get your inspiration for your stories? And do you have everything planned out or figure out as you go?
So, so as far as inspiration, a lot of it is trying to, for Barbarous in particular, which is like, I feel like it's the freest we've ever felt on a project to do whatever we felt like. A lot of it is, I guess, trying to digest our personal feelings about our experiences through the lens of like fiction. When we were doing Autobio, it was a little bit more difficult to express more complicated feelings about experiences, because it was like literally us, and things that are more complicated I feel like are easier to express through kind of like layers of fiction.
Yeah, that's like half of it. And then the other half of it, I think, was, you know, we had done the Autobio comics probably for like 5 or 6 years. And at that point, we were kind of itching to do something that was a little... Yuko's like really good at drawing monsters. So this is like an example. Yuko's really good at drawing monsters, but for some reason, we had never done a project where Yuko had space to do that, right? Like the Autobio comics, there really wasn't a ton of space to do it. And so I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this piece of paper and we're gonna write down on it everything that we want to put into a comic, you know, like everything that is like exciting or interesting to us. And then we're going to look at that list, and then we're kind of going to try to create something that synthesizes as much of that as we can. So I guess more on the, like, I don't want to say like superficial, but on the visual side, we were inspired a lot by like our interests, which I think is like, I think we're both pretty into like the idea of like fantasy and magic, but especially like
I got to do a monstrous protagonist, which I've never been able to do before, and I've been really excited to be able to do beasts and magic and more fantastical stuff, because for some reason I'd never worked on a fantastical project before. Yeah,
and it was crazy because the whole time we're doing Autobio comics, it was like there would be the Autobio comics, and then if you looked in Yuko's sketchbooks, they looked completely different. You know, like Yuko's sketchbooks were full of just drawings of dragons and monsters and stuff like that. So it was exciting to finally be able to, like, we really like mundane slice of life stories, and then to take the monster stuff and kind of like put them together was pretty cool. And then was that
I don't know if you really...
What was the second? Sorry, the first question was inspiration, and the second question was
if you have it all planned out or you figure it out as you go.
It's a little bit of both. We have the skeleton of what we want to do for Barbarous. It's because we update weekly. We try to write out the individual chapters, and then we do the chapter, but we have like the skeleton of like the arc of the story, but in the moment we're doing it chapter by chapter. For other things where it's like a one-shot graphic novel, it has to be like that's it. You write the script, and then that's the story.
Yeah, Lucky Penny had a whole script that we wrote, and then even Barbarous, we wrote the script for like the entire first like book, which is like the first 5 chapters. But we do a lot of revising, I think, as we're going along, just because I don't know, things change and you learn how to like be a better storyteller. For the Autobio stuff, I would say though that was pretty by the seat of our pants.
Yeah,
you know, we're basically just kind of making that up as we go.
I mean, the Autobio had no arc to it because it was all every day was a joke. Every joke was 1 page. That was the conceit. So that one had no overarching thought process.
You mentioned your love of dragons with monsters. Do you think that your love of monsters branched out from dragons? Do they cross paths? Are they unrelated?
Yes, I mean I was a dragon kid, like when I was in middle school through high school and probably through the majority of college and then adulthood, mumble. Like dragons were my thing. I got really deep into studying like animal anatomy and physiology so I could draw the most like feasible dragon that I possibly could
Yeah, you were studying like Autobahn and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the
I have
the
like
bird
all my
anatomy drawings.
Audubon studies from when I was like 12 years old, because I wanted to be able to understand like wing structures, and I have all the Muybridge books of like the stop motion photography of like animals in motion, so that I understood how animals moves and skeletal structures. And I'm like, I have to draw the most perfect dragon that could exist in the world. And that love never kind of went away, but it did branch out into other kinds of creatures.
It's like I would say that like you tend to be really into drawing like friendly monsters. No?
Well, I don't know. There's the comic update that we put up today.
Yeah. But generally, I mean, like Leeds is a very like.
Yeah.
I think he's like pretty friendly looking.
Yeah. No, like very like emotive.
Emotive. Yeah.
Yeah, like personable, like readable faces. Yeah. Would that answer the question?
Would you say that came out of your desire for dragons to like be your friends?
Yes, absolutely. Always.
Oh, what do you hope readers take away from your books?
So like all of our books are really different. They kind of run the gamut, but they tend to veer towards being comedies about people in like mundane situations, and I hope that people can see themselves in these characters. Like even like Barbarous, which is very fantastical, it is very grounded. Like it takes place in like modern day New York City, except it's like wizard New York City.
Yeah, but like one of the main characters is like the superintendent of the building, and they can have to deal with the tenant problems and stuff, which probably came out of our experience just living in New York, I guess. Yeah, it's like we want people to laugh and feel seen, I feel like.
Yeah, I want people to be able to identify with the situations that the characters are in. And I think that if there's like a single through line through like all of our books, they tend to be kind of like coming of age stories, like coming from a place of instability into like finding a new normal through like persistence.
So I guess the message would be hang in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we're getting some more Facebook questions, so I'm going to plug one in because I think it kind of works with the conversation. This is from Cassandra. I've been a huge fan of your work and stories for so long. How do you work on your stories regarding world building and character development? Where do you begin?
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's a great question, and that's actually a conversation that we have a lot. This is not going to be the case for a lot of authors who are doing like world building and like fantastical stories, but to us, character is like the most important thing in a story, and the world building gets built around the characters' needs and like the character relationships.
Yeah, I think we try to structure like our ideas of magic in the world around creating like interesting interactions and yeah, like you said, like progressing relationships and stuff like that. And also, I think in the service of a character story arc, kind of where we see the character going from the beginning to the end. We obviously don't like ignore the fact that there need to be like rough idea of mechanics in the world, but I think I want to say it's like Brandon Sanderson has some talks he does about the ideas of like I think hard magic versus soft magic, and I think based on what I've read and like some of the YouTube stuff I watch, I think we fall more into the category of soft magic. We are thinking about the magic systems and stuff, but we're also kind of developing them as we go, and we kind of don't we go for consistency, but we don't rule out, you know, if we make a new connection based on things that have been shown in the comic, we don't rule out the idea of changing one of our ideas or something. And I think that also feeds into, I think what we talked about earlier, where we tend to plan things out, but we leave ourselves open to making like small discoveries on the way. But there was a lot of world building that we had to do initially, like when we planned the comic. But a lot of that was around. So I would say like the way that we developed Barbarous was we wanted to have like a monstrous protagonist, which leads the superintendent, and then we said to ourselves, well, okay, how does he exist in the world with people? Like, what's our explanation for that? And we started sort of developing our ideas from there. So.
Yeah, so it was all the demands of the characters, and then we built the world around that.
Yeah.
But that's not the only way to work.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask if you kind of get to know your characters, and then if that influences the story, and you kind of just answer that, so I don't even have to ask it.
Yeah. No, it influences that a lot, I think, like as we make new discoveries and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, I have a random question in the comics. Is Ma ever showing up in a comic? What's their deal?
Cute.
So, for people who are not aware.
Well, you know what? Maybe I can go find that thing. I'll be right back.
Wait, what are you looking for? Oh, the plush? Okay. So, so Ma's are basically our logo. We try to put one like into. Oh, you can see one here. This is our logo. This is a creature that we've called a maw. This is a thing that I used to doodle when I was in college. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, he's right. Yeah.
I love these Facebook questions.
Yeah, we made a plush of him. They didn't come with the birthday hat. I just put this on him. But you can also get this through our web store.
Has like a big mouth.
Yeah, these are like creatures that I used to draw during college in my like notebooks and my margins. And when we started working together, Ananth actually said, "Why don't we use that as our logo?" And then we did. We try to get them somewhere into. The cat has arrived. He loves to scream.
Aww. We like cats here.
We love cats.
There's
They come up.
There he is. He's been so bratty today. I think he doesn't like being warm. But they became our logo, and then we try to put them into every project that we do. If it's more grounded, it'll be like a design element, like on a t-shirt or like some graffiti. If it's more fantastical, we'll just add them in as animals, like that. They're like pigeons. They're like kind of stupid.
Power lines and stuff. Yeah, they just kind of tie everything together a little bit. And I think one day we'll probably do like, we keep talking about, we have like some ideas about stories, but that would be like about the little creature. But yeah,
it hasn't happened yet.
I guess it doesn't answer the question of what's the deal with them. But
no, they're a weird creature. In my personal canon, they're basically like city crows and they eat bugs. That's it.
Do they talk?
I think they make weird noises, but they don't talk. They probably mumble at each other.
Okay, so we have a few more Facebook questions, but I'm going to go back to our prepared questions just so we can get some of them answered. So Sophia and I did a lot of social media stalking to get ready for this chat. So we've been looking at your social media, looking at your website. So how important is social media to you as creators, kind of to promote things, but also just like connect with your audience?
I'd say it's really important, like in right now, especially right now, it's definitely the number one way to connect and interact with people, to talk about projects and book releases. Like, I mean, we were supposed to have done a bunch of conventions by now, and now it like everything has moved online. Yeah. This is the way that we have to interact with people and interact with our friends. So yeah, I mean, this is the way to inform people about like book releases and like when the comic updates. when we're running a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I feel like Twitter especially has probably been the big one for us. But we also use Instagram a little bit and Tumblr like a little bit. But I think Twitter right now is the big one for especially getting the word out for like you said, Kickstarters and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Twitter's how I've connected with a lot of authors for these chats. So
oh, cool.
Like last year, I hadn't been on Twitter for so long and I didn't even really understand it, but now I'm on it all the time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like not go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really a good way to connect with people, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. I really love seeing the friendships you had with college roommates, and our cats are more famous than us. So my question is, do you keep in touch with any of them nowadays?
Yeah, we keep in touch with like most of them. I mean, like the two big people who we talked about in those comics were Conrad and John, and we keep in touch with both of them. We don't live super close to either of them, but they're both married now. They're both living their lives. It's strange that we're all adults because the old Autobio Comics were all about us being really bad at trying to be adults.
Yeah. Conrad, we lived with Conrad for quite a while.
Yeah.
I think we were living with Conrad up until, oh God, I don't remember the year or anything.
I would say probably about 4 years ago.
4 years ago? Okay,
Yeah.
Maybe around then.
Like, even after we stopped doing the Autobio Comics, we're still living with them for like a year or two.
Yeah. But we mostly like keep track of each other over social media and stuff. Every once in a while,
media.
I'll give Conrad a call and kind of say like, "What's up? How's it going?" Yeah, it's fun. This is one of those years where I was planning to take a lot of trips to like visit people who I hadn't seen in a while, and of course, same as what we were saying before.
Yeah.
But I guess that'll be a 2021 thing.
Yeah.
So,
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
I wish I had a third hand to cross another finger. I feel like I need it. But yeah. They seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah. I think you're in touch with Mike still.
Yeah, I'm in touch with Mike on and off. I haven't talked to him recently, but yeah, he seems like he's doing all right. We caught up a little. We did catch up like a month ago.
Yeah, I mean he only lived with us for maybe about a year.
He was my really good friend from. I grew up in Maryland, Silver Spring area, and he's my really good friend from back when I was living there. So yeah, college time. Yeah. I would love to see him again sometime.
Yeah, I miss him. He was a good roommate.
He was a good roommate.
He was an extremely good cook.
Yeah, he was. That's right. Yeah, he actually for a while was taking classes to be a chef. So it's pretty exciting. We got to eat all of the like concoctions that he would make.
Yeah. Oh my God. One time he brought home homemade marshmallows.
Oh my God.
I've never liked marshmallows before in my life. They were like passion fruit marshmallows. They're so good.
Like I've never tasted like a gourmet marshmallow before or since, but I remember that. It was really good. Yeah.
Do you guys cook?
I
Yuko
cook
especially
a lot. Like
yeah.
I before quarantine, I cooked plenty, but now I cook all of the time, and it's like too much. I don't want to cook so much.
Oh no.
My husband started baking.
Oh,
so now we have like freshly made bread, we have dinner rolls, we have breakfast rolls, we have desserts, and I'm like, I need to start walking or like going out because it's so much baking.
We started getting, I think the other thing that's forced like more cooking to happen is we started getting these, you can get those like boxes of vegetables or whatever.
Yeah, like the imperfect foods. We have a Misfits market.
So they'll just send you a box that has like a ton of vegetables and fruit in it.
This is the box that we got like 2 weeks ago. So that took, so now this is a challenge that I have to cook all of these vegetables that come in.
Before they go bad?
Yeah, before we get the next box.
Yeah, I find good food photos, but these are all photos of Rook.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, like,
here's something.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. we keep on
Ooh.
getting all these really weird greens. Like we will get cabbage and kale, and we've gotten so many fennel roots, which I'd never even really interacted with before. I'd never eaten it before. It's a celery that tastes like licorice. But there's a Japanese dish called okonomiyaki that is basically it's like a savory pancake that you make with cabbage, and I've just been like, we have like 3 bushels of kale in the refrigerator. I'm just gonna make okonomiyaki with kale and hope that it turns out well. And I've just been making a lot. Oh, he found a bread that I made.
It was like a spicy bread, I think.
Ooh.
Like scallions.
So,
sorry, this is like the silliest thing for me to do, but
I'm trying to find photos too, like that. Where's the camera?
ooh,
oh my god,
wow,
that's beautiful.
that looks so
oh my
good.
god.
I'm
Oh my
so
God.
jealous of her.
And I have he has. I'm not gonna tell him that I shared these photos, but here's the rolls.
Whoa.
Oh my god.
So it's like I'm constantly surrounded by all these goodies.
That sounds great. Oh man.
Wow.
I guess
Do you guys still have the bread machine that you talk about in Our Cats Are More Famous?
We do,
We
yeah.
do, but I haven't bought yeast for it in literally years, so it's just like this enormous brick that lives in the closet.
Yeah, it's a really big paperweight.
It's yeah. This was my mom's bread maker from, I don't know, 1995. They're probably way better now, but this thing, it must weigh like 30 pounds. It is truly enormous, and it's so loud.
Yeah, it's like though I couldn't believe how loud it was.
Yeah.
I understand why now, but the first time you used it, I was like, is this okay?
Yeah,
like,
you can hear it from like anywhere in the apartment. You could probably hear it from the neighbor's apartment.
Yeah.
Someday we'll get more yeast, and I'll see if it still works.
Mhm. I'll show one more. Yuko made some noodles.
Oh yeah, this is
Ooh.
got
Oh my gosh, I'm hungry now.
like actually like really nice fancy ramen noodles. So I tried to make something really nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
put it
putting
away.
this. I'm putting this away.
He found
Yeah.
the ramen tofu I made. That was also very good. But
It's fine.
thank you for showing up.
So related to that question, would you write and draw about friends and family again in the future?
Which is also a Facebook question, so
Oh, cool.
Oh,
You wanna go?
someone
Sure.
asked it.
so like I'm actually still doing journal comics. It's just like the travelogue comics whenever we
Yeah.
take a trip, which hasn't
Which are,
happened
like,
this year.
It's like they're in the spirit of the Autobio Comics, but they're
They're like a little bit more complex. They're kind of like more diary style
Yeah.
instead of like the gag comics.
in a little more stream of consciousness, right? Yeah, and there'll be a lot of text sometimes.
Yeah, but like in that way, I think we're still following that spirit where we're talking about ourselves and our friends. But as far as the like gag a day, like every page is a joke comics, I'm not sure right now.
I think we'll probably inevitably go back to it at some point because they're like fun to do, but I think the thing right now is that we have a lot on our plate already, and also I want to reapproach it when we have like a new perspective or something new to share through it. I think the thing that we were sharing through the old Autobio comics was a lot of like kind of like figuring out stability, sort of, or not. That wasn't at the forefront, but as that happened, what happens in life as you work your way up to that. And I feel like we got a little bit of stability, and so now we're just waiting for, I guess, like the right moment to reapproach it with like a fresh outlook.
Yeah, but like I think the thing is that we figured out is like as we mentioned before, the thing that we enjoy more right now is that we like dissecting our personal experiences through like a fictional lens.
Yeah, which was also something we couldn't necessarily do in the Autobio comics. Like the Autobio comics were more about like, I think like the sweeter moments, like moments where, like maybe something bad happens, but it's like funny bad, like, I don't know, like ants in the ceiling, you know, like that kind of thing.
Oh.
Whereas like I think when it's a little more arm's length through the lens of like fictional characters, it's easier for us to tackle some stuff that we kind of like, I don't think would necessarily be comfortable with doing when it was like our faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we have a bunch of fun questions, and this is from Facebook. Rodrigo wants to know, how many hats does Ananth have? And I'm curious now about why this question had to be asked.
Well, so I started wearing, so how do I answer this?
This is your responsibility.
I have slightly light sensitive eyes, so I started wearing a hat all the time in college, and then that was also around the time that I started doing my first comic, and so I just always showed up in pictures in a hat, you know, because my friends would take them or whatever. And then we started going to conventions, and I would still wear the hat because the overhead lights were really bright, and it just helped me.
How many hats do you own, Ananth?
Yeah, I'm counting. It's a lot. It must be at least like 15 or something. They're just like around the house.
I was gonna say, are they displayed?
I tried for a while, but the problem is that there's too many. And it takes up too much space. It's really embarrassing. But every time I see a hat that I like, I'm like, you know what? Sorry. You know what? Like, I guess this is a part of like my, like, I don't wear hats really at home at all. I now tend to wear them like if we do something like this, you know, where we're representing what we do, because, you know, Yuko always draws me in. And that was the other thing, is that once we started doing Autobio Comics, yeah, Yuko always, also on Sophia's screen, Yuko always draws me with a hat. And so that just ended up being the default thing. And so then it became like became circular, right? Like I couldn't stop wearing the hat. One thing I have found is that when I would go to conventions, if I wanted a private moment, you know, sometimes you'll like cross the room and someone will recognize you and they'll stop you and they'll say, hey, and it's great. I love to say, but sometimes you like really just need to like run to the bathroom or something. I take off my hat. No one talks to me. They don't know who I am. So that also.
Wow, anonymity.
Yeah, I get some anonymity. Yeah, it's like 15 hats or something. I tried displaying them, and then I was like, this is weird, you know, and also there's like too many. So now I keep them all in a backpack.
In case you gotta go, you got them all?
In case I need to go and I need all 15 of my hats, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's more than 10, but less than 20. Whatever that number is.
You know what? I was gonna say feel free to roast me, but you're doing great. Yeah.
I live to roast.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I was so excited. I loved Yuko's version of you in the comics, and I thought, oh, it's so neat that even when you take off the hat, like you still have the shadow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Does that happen? I think I can find it.
No, it's in the other book.
It's in the other book.
Don't look
I'm not
for
gonna
it.
try to
There's
find
400 pages
There's like
of that
400
comic.
pages.
You'll never find it.
I'll never find it. But yeah.
I know there's one where like somebody asked, what does Yuko look like behind your glasses, and you have like the shoujo eyes, and like what's underneath Ananth's hat, and it's still the shadow, and then there's another page where he has the shadow eyes.
Yeah, it ended up being really fun shorthand. I don't know, it's cute. I feel like it makes, yeah, here we go. Yuko, even in the Autobio Comics, I feel like it still makes me a little recognizable. You know? She just draws me with the full shadow from like my hairline all the way up until like this part of my face.
Here it is.
Yeah, there it is. Oh yeah, that we combined it.
Yeah, no, I think I cut out the eyes.
Yeah. I love it.
I remember looking you guys up way back when I first read this book, and I was almost sad that like you didn't actually have the shadow as a
Yeah.
We get that a lot at conventions.
Yeah, I did. So there's about maybe 6 months of conventions I did where I was like, I'm gonna stop wearing a hat, you know, like I've worn it for years. My eyes are doing better now, and it just felt like weird.
Oh,
so
I think that was when you had transition lenses.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, I got transition lenses, and it just felt weird, I guess. And so now, you know.
Well, you did really great with the avatars, Yuko. I love them.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so happy that question got answered. I feel like we set something to rest now.
I asked that before.
Yeah, that was great.
That was a great question. Kudos to that person.
Yeah. I'll have to go count now. Now I'm really curious. I'm not gonna do it now. But
Don't do now.
You might have more than you think.
I might have more than I think.
God.
I'm a little mortified actually. We'll see what happens.
Do you have any hats that are your merchandise?
No, we've been
It's an
talking
idea.
about making like embroidered hats. I've been talking about this for probably 1 to 2 years. It's just a matter of finding a manufacturer, and right now it's a little bit difficult, but we're gonna make hats. I promise.
Hats are super on the short list of stuff we
Yes.
want to make. It's like right at the top. Yeah.
I would love to have one with Rook and Cricket and your mom's cats on them.
That'd be cute.
Yeah,
You wanna do it?
I could.
Yeah, we should
We could
totally
do
do it.
that.
That would be cute.
God,
Let's see if we have any more Facebook. Okay, we have a few more Facebook. This is from Heidi, and this was asked towards the beginning, so I want to make sure we get to it. She says that she could listen to you guys talk about monsters all day. As someone who is also super into monsters, what is it that draws you to the monstrous?
Oh my gosh.
I defer to
Oh no, it's me.
the
I don't know. I when I was a kid, I always identified more with the monstrous characters than the human protagonists, and that feeling never really went away. Like I was in like dragon communities and like message boards, and like I had my own like OCs that would be like my personal avatars, and I don't know, I think that it's easy to say that it's like shorthand for being an outsider, but it really is. And also there's something about growing up in a place where you don't see yourself reflected in your environment. I grew up in an extremely white town. I was one of the only people who wasn't white in like my entire elementary school to high school experience, and feeling kind of like totally out of place. Being able to like really lean into that and be something where I'm like, yeah, I am something else. What about it? Was just like very comforting to me. Did
you find it like empowering at all?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like we've had discussions about why we loved Ninja Turtles when we were younger.
Yeah.
It's like because
my brother and I were like obsessed with Ninja Turtles growing up, and then when we got older, when we first started dating, we both bonded over our mutual love of that old cartoon show, Gargoyles.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect crossover.
Yeah, no, and you know, I think you can kind of almost see Gargoyles in the DNA of Barbarous right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even I feel the same way about it. I think, you know, you've always, I think, been better at articulation.
No, I mean, like the reason that we talked a lot about the reason that we liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot, and it is partially because they are something else that's kind of fantastical that totally represented us, and like you could be like any kind of American teen, which we were, and still be able to totally project onto these like non-human characters.
Yeah,
it was really important to us.
And I think one of the other things was that with the Ninja Turtles especially, and also with Gargoyles, there are like a bunch of them, right? It wasn't just one character. And so, you know, like my brother's favorite, I think was like Leonardo or Raphael. I think it was Leonardo. And my favorite was Donatello, you know.
My favorite was Raphael.
And Yuko's favorite was Raphael. So you can see though, like everyone had a choice about who their favorite turtle could be. And I think it was just easy to like find one of the characters that align with your interests, and really like as a little kid, I think imprint on them. Yeah. I think now that when I got older, I was like, I think I like Raphael, but Donatello was the original. You know,
Also, they're just cool. I love a good monster. Who
Yeah.
can resist?
Mhm. Yeah, they're cool looking too.
Mhm.
I mean, like you have fun drawing them too,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
Every once in a while, I still listen to the original Ninja Turtles soundtrack coming out of their shells,
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
as cheesy as it was.
is that the movie one?
Yeah, the
or-
first one.
Yeah.
I guess their voice actors sing or whatever, something like that. They're like
Mhm.
rock songs from like 1990.
Didn't they also do? Did they do music videos also or something?
They might have. Someone told me that they had like a rock opera for kids, like they would tour.
I've
That's what I'm thinking
I've heard about that. There was like a traveling like rock opera.
I'm sad I never got to go. I didn't know about it.
I all I know, I saw clips on YouTube of some sort of live action, like singing turtle thing, but I don't remember what it was anymore.
That's probably it.
You can probably find it on YouTube.
Yeah, probably.
Let's see, we have a few more Facebook questions. This is from Natalie from Portland, Oregon. She says, I hope you're well, sad about ECCC. So thank you for doing this. Do you feel like the pandemic is influencing your work at all? Or because you're homebodies anyway, you're enjoying not going out?
Wow.
Ah! Well,
Tricky question.
first off, I hope you're doing well as well. Please take care in Portland. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily affecting our work. I think I am afraid that if we wind up doing any sort of like pandemic / quarantine stories, it would wind up coming across as gauche. I don't necessarily want to make like escapist stories, which is kind of what we do, that would eventually wind up reminding people of the bad times that we're currently living through.
Yeah, I think at least from my perspective, there's also a danger of. I think the moment is big. Everyone's living through it, and at least to me, I want to be able to process that and think about it from my perspective, but then also understand, how other people have kind of gone through it and kind of have more of a long view on it. So I'm sure at some point it'll show up as an influence in something, but in the immediate present for us right now, I'm a little, it's like Yuko said, I'm wary of doing sort of like a knee-jerk reaction to it. That I think the closest thing we could end up doing would be like something autobiographical, and that would be like honest and direct, but we have the projects that we have going on right now, and at least with Barbarous also, there's already enough of a roadmap that there's not a lot of room to kind of move around right now. For one of the other books, that we're collaborating on with an artist, I am making a little bit of a nod towards like acknowledging that the pandemic happened because it takes place in the near future, and so I don't want it to like immediately date itself even before it comes out, but it's not going to be in any like substantive way. Yeah, it's going to kind of be acknowledging it as something that happened in the past, and probably like one page or something. So that's the kind of stuff that we're thinking about, I guess.
Yeah. But,
and how are we handling it?
Conventions
and all that stuff.
Honestly, I miss seeing friends. Like we actually live in a neighborhood where we have probably about 10 like friendly acquaintances who live within like a 10 block radius, because we live in Brooklyn, and we can walk to a bunch of our friends' houses. We have not seen them since March. Like we've only seen them through like video calls and stuff, and like in that way it is an enormous bummer. And I never thought I would say this, but I do really miss conventions, because like we get to see all of our friends from like all over the US and like Canada, and they come over from like Europe and stuff, and so that is definitely like as a homebody, it is actually a big bummer, and I miss our friends. But like it like it like I have gotten a lot of work done, but I would rather not be working right now. I'm just working all of the time because what else can I do? But we are very lucky that we do work from home, and like our office is like 10 feet away from our bedroom, so like they're work wise we want for nothing, and like nothing has been really slowed down significantly. But also I don't know, I want to go to the beach with my friends and have a barbecue.
Yeah, I would say I definitely miss conventions. I think at first, as homebodies, we were like, yeah, we can do this. Stay home, great, you know. But I think it has started to wear a little bit. Like we, just kind of miss seeing our friends and stuff. But overall, you know, I think it's okay. We got Ring Fit. That yes. Switch game where you have like the ring and you have to like work out and fight the
Drago.
The big
Drago,
buff dragon.
my new boyfriends.
Yeah. So that at least has been keeping us kind of like moving, you know. But
getting endorphins, I think, is like the most important thing that we got right off of the bat. I got Ring Fit Adventure as a Christmas gift before we even got a Switch. We got the Switch as soon as quarantine started. So we've been able to kind of move around in lieu of being able to walk outside for the entirety of quarantine, and we got the good brain chemicals from moving.
Yeah, now it's easier to like go outside and stuff, but in New York it's like pretty crowded, you know, so you kind of have to pick your time and all that stuff. So I'd say overall we're doing okay. The days do kind of run together, which I'm sure everyone deals with. But I feel like if there's one thing I can say, it's if you even get moving a little bit in the morning, get a little bit of those endorphins, it does help make the day. It's a good start to the day.
Mm-hmm. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
One of our next questions, do you have a favorite graphic novel or a book in general, or one that has particularly impacted you? Big question.
Jeez. One that is particularly impacted. Like, so you sent us a question where it was a book that had a particular impact on us when we were younger. And I think that is completely different than like a book that had like a impact on me, like I guess my current work. But thinking
answer either one then, whatever you want to share with us.
All right, so regarding a book, like a comic that had an enormous impact on me when I was younger was I think in 1998 I think it was Dark Horse started bringing over the manga adaptations of the Star Wars films, and I think it was either my birthday or Christmas, but I asked for them from my parents as the only thing that I received that year, because it was a bunch of books. They still exist in my parents' house, and those were my favorite books for years, because this was before the manga boom. So it was really hard to get like non-superhero comics in the United States at that time, and also I'd never been to a comic book store at that point. Like there were none around me. So these were almost my first taste of manga that was in English, because I had Japanese manga before from my relatives, but I couldn't read it because I wasn't able to read Japanese until I was like in college. But in particular, the adaptations of Star Wars: A New Hope that was done by Hisao Tamaki and Empire Strikes Back by Toshiki Kudo. Those, like, I would I would like try and copy the faces out of those because I found the art so appealing. And I thought that they were completely out of print, but I think that you can actually you can buy them digitally now. Don't quote me on that, but
No, I saw them on Comixology, and
Okay.
you can get them on Comixology and Kindle, I think.
Yeah, but like this was like early manga stuff. Like all the pages were completely flipped, so that English speaking audiences or English reading audiences could read them from left to right. But like the layouts were beautiful. They were like really clean.
The paneling is totally crazy. Like
Yeah,
it
they're
is
really nice.
really good. Yeah.
Oh,
It's been a good influence on your like young brain. Yeah.
So that was my copying the faces moment was all of the Star Wars comics.
I think for me, I'm gonna cheat and name a couple, I guess. I think so. Book-wise, not necessarily like a graphic novel, but I guess we were assigned to read House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende in high school. It must have been like my sophomore or junior year or something. And for some reason, that book totally blew my mind. I had never read a book like it before. I'd never really read anything in the genre of like magical realism. But after I read that, I remember I went totally crazy for it. And I started reading everything else that I could find sort of like in the genre. But that book always stuck with me. It's one of those books where I remember my first reading of it so strongly. I have a copy of it now that I bought at like a used bookstore a couple of years ago. I cannot actually bring myself to reread it because I don't want to like change my memory of the experience from when I was younger. It completely rewired my brain, I think, for my ideas about like how you could tell a story and like what writing could be, I think. As far as comics go, I would say older comics is like, I feel pretty influenced by like Rumiko Takahashi's like, I actually did not read a lot of Ranma 1/2 or a lot of Inuyasha. I actually recently watched the anime. I think when quarantine started, I was like, well, I'm here, you know, like I gotta
they announced the sequel and we're like, wow, Inuyasha. I watched a lot of that when I was in high school, and then we started rewatching it together. I'm like, wow, I remember all of this. This is wow. I was dredging up so many memories of high school. I just never, somehow I completely flew by me when I was younger, but I'm kind of glad I picked it up now because there are things about it that I can like look at and then think about Barbarous and like put it together in my brain. But Maison Koku was the one that I read when I was younger that really like, I don't know, had a big influence on me. And I think mostly it was like the pacing of the jokes and like the ways that the characters could like, they could like yell at each other but still be friends, you know, which was something that I think I had not really seen in fiction before, where it was like they'd yell at each other but there's something very warm about the way it all happens. So that was earlier. And then I think more recently, there's this author named Aki Iri who did a series called Ron in the Gray World. Yeah.
And I think that's a lot from, I don't remember the publisher.
Enterbrain?
No, that's like the Japanese publisher. It's released in English here, and it's like, maybe I'll just look it up real quick. But that one had a big influence on me. It's another story about like, it's Viz, okay. It's about like a mundane, it's like magic in a mundane setting, kind of. And so the magic, it's like soft magic are built around these relationships between characters.
Yeah, and the author can really draw.
Yeah.
She's so good at like drawing messes, but in a way where it's completely readable. Like the hierarchy of information is like extremely clear. It's just like her pages are really pleasurable to look at.
I was calling them beautiful messes because she'll sometimes open chapters with just like a splash of a character's room, and in that moment it's like super messy, but you learn so much because everything's super clear. And I don't know, I for some reason it had been a while since the comic really kind of like got into my brain the way they kind of did when I was younger, but that one definitely did. So yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah, sorry.
We like
no, it's awesome. Yeah. So we have a few more Facebook. This is from, I hope I say Yuri. hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. So the question is, you got married around the end of your journal comics, and the actual ceremony is in Wander. But did you debate including the proposal in Our Cats at all?
Oh yeah.
Did we?
Yeah. We I mean, we had a conversation about it. Do we debate? Oh
Whether or
yeah,
not to
including the
include it.
proposal at the end. Yeah, we did, because these comics in general were about the cuter moments in our life, but they're pretty arm's length, right? Like, we didn't talk about the more serious stuff, you know, like I can't think of a good example, but you know, we skipped over that stuff in favor of creating like I hope like a warmer atmosphere. But I think the conversation that we had at the end was, we were like, you know, our readers have been with us for so long, and we should, I don't know, it just felt like giving like a peek behind the curtain felt appropriate, especially as a way to close the book, because the proposal is like right at that. Wait.
Yeah.
It is right at the end. Okay, I was
Yes,
like, wait a
it's at
minute.
the very, very, very end.
Yeah, and it's not part of any of the other, because the rest of the book is split up into 4 sections.
Yeah, they're all in
Based
color.
by color, but then these kind of stand alone on their own.
Yeah, these are the only comics that are in like actual black and white
Yeah.
at the very end.
And we told them in a more, we told them in a format, all the comics had been 1-page jokes or like 1-page stories, but this one we kind of expanded it and let it breathe a little bit. So in that way, it was also like, I guess like from a formal perspective, it was like getting behind the curtain, because suddenly you're seeing a more like, I guess, realistic view of that to some degree. But yeah, we had a long conversation about like whether or not we would want to do it, and then I think like how we would go about doing it.
Yeah, I think we might have actually. Do we post those comics while we were in India?
That's a really good question.
I
We
don't
might have
remember.
posted those comics while we were getting married, I think. Yeah. I don't remember the timing. It's hard to remember the timing because
It
there's
was
so
so
many
long
now.
ago.
But
Everything's a blur. Time is meaningless.
Even April was like forever ago.
yeah, it was like 10 Aprils ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that our feeling was that it was a good end cap on the Autobio comics, that it was like, this is like the definitive ending, whereas like the beginning kind of started with a question. It was like, how now that I have graduated from college, how do I become a functioning adult? And the end was kind of like, well, here's like another phase of adulthood.
Hmm.
So it felt like a clean, concise ending to cap off this kind of like mishmash of like Autobio comics.
Yeah, something about it just felt like appropriate and right. So I think, yeah.
I loved coming to that ending, that like the book wasn't really about, you know, dating or romance, but like at the same time you feel like you're watching a family, and naturally this is how the family just keeps going. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, like
That's really nice
we
to
got
hear.
we got a lot of comments from people who weren't aware that we were dating.
Yeah.
I mean, we did it by
we were
design.
very secretive about it.
Yeah.
Well, not secretive, but like we just didn't. Like to us, it was all about like the friendship, you know, and not necessarily highlighting.
You don't see that enough in comics, that like a couple can be friends, and that's an important thing.
It's an important thing. I think friendship in a couple is, I think it's important. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I there was a point where there was one comic where it actually depicted the two of us sleeping in a bed together, and we had this huge conversation on whether or not we wanted to have that in there.
It's actually the comic I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I have no idea what
It was when we adopted Rook.
Okay.
I think it was one of the left-handed comics, but we weren't sure whether or not we wanted to explicitly have that in there to state that yes, we're actually a couple. Like, we were never trying to keep it a secret, but it never was the point of those comics.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll find it.
Don't
but
worry about it.
Yeah.
If you find it, post it on Twitter.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like it's got to be really nerve-wracking sometimes to have so much of yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll also say this. I feel like now that we're older, I think it's a little easier for us to say that we're married because I guess like our work is like a little more established now. It's been like 10, 15 years or something.
Yeah.
But when we were starting out, we were also really conscious of like, you know, how people perceive a couple working together, you know, where too much credit gets given to the man or too much credit gets given to the artist or, you know, whatever it is. People bring, you know, whatever internal politics they have into that. And so I'd say part of that also was just wanting to make sure that we were both seen as creators and people, and not confusing like the sort of like the way that people received, I think, what was the most important part of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Is that kind of?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that was stuff we talked about very early on. Yeah.
You're never gonna be able to find it.
I'm never gonna
There's
find
400,
it.
there's 400 pages of
I'm
comics.
struggling.
It's fine.
I'm struggling.
Okay, so we have another Facebook question. This was kind of towards the beginning, but I wanted to save it for a little bit later. This is from Olivia.
Mhm.
Hello. So awesome to see you guys. Yuko, I've been following your art since Fallen, and it made a massive impact on me and my art. Love Johnny Wander and our cats. Do you have any advice for comic artists on building portfolios?
Comic artists are building portfolios. Yes. So
That's your entire answer.
yes, I do. Next question. No. So definitely stop.
No, it's okay. You got
Oh
it.
my
You got
God.
it. We're gonna find it.
He's got to find it. So I think one thing that the two of us actually figured out pretty early on is, and that I figured out by doing Fallen, the comic that I did when I was 15 years old that I don't talk about anymore because I'm very embarrassed by it for reading it. So especially for a portfolio, make short work first.
Yeah.
Make like if you also want to be a like a artist author, if you want to make your like write for yourself instead of being given a script that was written by somebody else, make a short story, make a like something that is like between like 1 and 6 pages that has a clear arc, that makes sense. Just work small and make something concise. That's definitely a pitfall that I fell into very early because I wanted to make some kind of like sprawling, cool epic about stuff.
Uh-huh.
And like for if you want to show off your writing chops, go concise. As far as being an artist, show off like every aspect of art that you think would be applicable to a comic. Do like emotive characters, like do something that's like a close-up, characters who are interacting, environmental shots, shots of characters interacting with the environment, action, like, which is not like one of my strengths at all, but unfortunately it has to be done sometimes.
Yeah, I think it also depends on what kind of work you see yourself doing to some degree. I think,
Yeah.
you know, like there are definitely more emotive, like autobiographical or even like fiction comics that, like when you say action, you don't necessarily mean like punches and kicks, right?
No,
you mean,
not
like,
necessarily.
yeah.
Like, I don't know, somebody like running towards the camera, that's action.
riding a bike.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, bikes are really complicated though.
Don't
Uh,
bicycles.
Yeah, I feel like we lucked out in starting with our short 1-a-day comics and then working our way up to like, we had fiction shorts that were anywhere from like 4 to 6 or 8 pages or something. And then we did Lucky Penny, which was a full-length graphic novel. And then now we're trying out a series, you know, so like we kind of like
incrementally, yeah.
That's not to say that you shouldn't do your big epic if you want to, but if what you want to do is get work with like a publisher or something, then I think being able to think in the terms that Yuko described makes a ton of sense, and it goes a long way. The only other thing I'll add to that is that you may not have a story in mind, like not everyone does. I think one exercise that, I can't remember who the teacher was, but they said that when they talk to their students, they would say, do a short Autobio comic. And the reason for that is that if your purpose is to practice drawing, and that's it, it's easier to do an Autobio comic because all of the world building or whatever it is already exists, right? So you can spend your time thinking about more formal elements, like how am I going to depict this interaction, or how am I going to pace out this joke and stuff. And the world building and the writing and stuff is a little easier. Basically, it becomes less of a barrier to you drawing your work. So if you're having difficulty with ideas, Autobio is a good way to kind of like not bypass, but sort of compress that step so you can get to the drawing if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing is like for any sort of art, unfortunately, fundamentals are key. So if you have the chance to do any sort of like studies, figure drawing, you don't even necessarily need to put it into a portfolio, because I know like it doesn't matter because it's not going to be comics.
Yeah, I would actually say if it's a comics portfolio, I don't know if the figure drawing,
yeah,
I might be wrong, but I don't know if the figure drawing is what you want in there, because what they're going to be more concerned with, like whoever is going to hire you, they're going to be concerned with like your ability to draw figures from multiple angles, which will come out of the studies, but also paneling and stuff like that. Like your ability to, comics is not one drawing done really well. It's a bunch of drawings done clearly or relatively clearly, but that more importantly tell a clear story.
Yeah.
And so it's more important that the big picture be clear than each individual.
Yeah, but fundamentals will strengthen everything that you do after it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
work hard. I believe in you.
Oh, thank you for all that information. And actually, Libby has another question, which kind of goes along with what we were talking about. How do you create comic avatars for people you know in real life?
So like comic avatars, so the way that Yuko kind of like makes us look like cartoons, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean,
I'm gonna assume that's what that is.
So this is actually one of those things that I don't take any pleasure out of. I don't like, personally, I do not enjoy drawing caricatures of people who I know. It's just happened to be something that came with the territory of doing autobiographical comics. Like finding the features in your friends or like the people who are close to you that are most easily turned into shorthand that works within your style. Like if you have a very simple style and like your friend has like really big eyebrows and like really accentuating that really like that helps a lot. Also, what if you didn't like do a perfect like one-to-one analogous character? Like you can draw your friends as anything. It doesn't actually matter if they look exactly like them. You can turn all of your friends into wolves. It's totally fine. as long as you can tell the characters apart, that's what's most important. So
it sounds like an answer a wizard would give. You can turn all your friends into wolves.
Turn all your friends into wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Or dragons.
My final answer.
Yeah.
It would be cute if they were cats, because that would kind of go with.
Turn all your
Just imagining a cat with glasses and a hat.
Yeah. Honestly, like that's one of the most pleasurable things about drawing Ananth is that you draw a hat and it's Ananth. It's great.
Yeah, you don't really have to get too into it, I think. I will say one of the pitfalls of making a comic avatar of your friends is just be careful about, I don't know how to say this. Sometimes people don't like the way that you will like decide to make an avatar of them. And so I guess be open to listening to that.
Yeah, there was one time that I drew a comic that involved someone, and I actually I got an email that was like, "Hey, I don't like how you drew my haircut. Please change my haircut." I'm like, "Oh my god, you're in like the background."
Yeah.
So be aware of that. Like, if this is something that you're going to be putting out into the world, like, it might behoove you just to get permission from people. Say, hey, I'm going to be drawing a comic about that thing that happened on Saturday night. I thought it was funny. Can I do it? Or like email it to them in advance and be like, hey, can I post this online?
Yeah, that was one thing that we were very careful of, is that if someone was showing up in our comic, we always asked them.
Yeah.
You know, and if someone didn't want to be in the comic, we would just make it like a random person in the background or something instead. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just checking Facebook. It looks like we have 2 more Facebook questions, and then we'll get to our closing questions. So these are the last 2 Facebook from Cassandra again. This is a question about the world building that you talked about earlier. I really loved your comments about characters and world building. And you mentioned how you keep a skeleton of the story and tweak as you go. How do you keep that skeleton? Is it a long story-like text or sketches of page thumbnails?
It's kind of like it's definitely not drawings.
Yeah. So I will say this was especially the case with Barbarous, but I think generally we do a lot of our story planning on road trips. So if we like rent a car or we're driving around somewhere, we'll end up doing a lot of talking during that time. And so whatever notes we take down end up going in a notebook. Yeah. So I'm going to say what works for me personally, which is I think for planning stuff out, it's much easier to do it in a notebook. Something about writing with like real media opens my brain up a little bit, whereas like when I'm typing at the keyboard, I tend to do that when I get to the step of like writing a script. I think that might just be like a generational thing. I kind of wonder if a younger person would feel that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The question was, how far do we have it, or how do we have it planned out? Like in
I mean, it's basically in a series of notebooks. There's no thumbnails involved. It's basically kind of like a loose series of events that will we'll definitely take a hatchet to them whenever we get to them. Our like the way that we have been doing Barbarous has been to kind of come up with like much larger ideas and then like hack away at the edges until it becomes something that is more feasible for me to do in a shorter amount of time. Yeah.
There are some characters who we just, we had to cut them because I know, but we had to cut them in order to, but they were in the original document, so that's to say, like, stuff that is in that story document or in your notebook or whatever, like, at least for us, we don't really hesitate to kind of like pick and choose what we end up using based on once we get an idea of like the scope.
Yeah,
how much work something's going to be.
Everything that we have in these notebooks, they're all suggestions for ourselves in the future, but we don't mind completely ignoring anything that we've said in the past in order to pursue something that would be clearer or give a stronger story arc or more concise.
Yeah, so like you never know when you're gonna have an epiphany where like you had these like three plot points that were gonna gonna end up taking up, like, let's say an entire volume, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, if we just, you know, maybe cut this character and change this one thing about it, suddenly that can all be one event, and we can tell it in a concise and kind of like more elegant way. So it's like stuff like that. I think we're like way off topic. I'm just rambling. Yeah, we tend to do most of our planning in notebooks, and then some of it will end up in a text doc. And then we'll go from text doc to outlines for each chapter. And then those outlines will get spun out into scripts that then we go back and forth and kind of punch up and stuff. And even the scripts, I can tell you, like chapter 5 scripts, we've probably rewritten the last half of it. Like, yeah, Kiko's making it was a lot of times. So we're pretty open to changing stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunately a kill your darlings kind of situation all the time.
Yeah. I think,
Thank you
again,
for sharing that.
yeah.
Okay, so our last Facebook question is from Natalia. Do you think real Conrad's hair looked like a weasel, or did you notice the weasel after you drew it?
Okay, no one's ever asked me this before.
That's amazing. Literally, no one has ever, like, we always wondered if anyone like noticed that his hair is always drawn so it looks like a,
It's supposed to be a hedgehog.
Yeah.
I think.
But there's like.
Wait, did I actually draw it as a hedgehog in the beginning? Because I don't think I did.
Oh, is it not like that on the first one?
Nope,
Oh,
it is.
It is, yeah, 100%.
Okay, apparently this was the joke from the beginning, and almost nobody picked up on it. Yes, it was always supposed to be like a hedgehog that was just draped over his head. I don't know why, because I drew this first comic in 2008, which was 12 years ago.
It's in the first comic, and I think it's like, to my memory, it's like literally, it might be hard to see.
It's hard to see because I added the eyes.
But you can see there's like 2 eyes.
It's like a hedgehog that's draped over his head.
Oh, you can't see it in that one. Oh yeah, at the bottom here again.
Yeah.
2 eyes. Yeah, that's awesome that you noticed. Wow.
Yeah, his hair doesn't actually look like a hedgehog, but
no, it's like he has like his hair looks great. It's very normal hair. I just like at the time when you were drawing the shape, it looked like a little hedgehog. So you just
I think that was it. Whenever it wound up happening,
we did make a joke about it. That's right. Okay. Cool. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I don't think there was ever a point when it actually did look like a hedgehog, but I don't know. He would sometimes put gel in it, and there were sometimes some spikes. I'm like, I'm just gonna lean into this. Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I think it's Mary Allen's comment is, I think we teased. Oh no, people teased him about the hedgehog hair in college.
Did we?
Wow.
Okay, I will take your word for it.
That's great.
Thank you for remembering.
And Olivia says, very normal hair.
Extremely normal hair. Everything is extremely normal all the time. Don't worry about it.
I wonder if Conrad's gonna see this.
Oh no! Don't tell Conrad. No
Does he see thumbs up a lot?
Yeah.
Conrad. Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, I would say towards the end.
It's there are so many things that we call like Conradisms or Johnisms that like that's how we referred to them, but these were things that we just like picked up because they would like do them all the time, and then you just start doing it. So.
But yes,
I love reading about the Johnisms in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, Conrad did
awesome.
Yeah.
Was it like this?
I don't remember.
Yeah, but that was very Conrad. Yes. And then you started doing it.
Oh well, I lived with Conrad from like.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It was like my sophomore year of college into adulthood.
Oh yeah. Did we ever talk about this in the comic? You guys, you and Conrad and John became friends in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we all went to college together. We went to Rochester Institute of Technology.
I'm realizing now. I don't know if that's for.
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, no. There's Conrad's holding his diploma that says RIT on it upside down. Second comic.
Good point. Yep. You're right.
Does John still set things on fire in the kitchen?
I don't know.
I can only assume.
Possibly, but possibly not.
I feel like, I don't know.
I will not libel him.
No, you will not slander him.
No, libel's written. I will not slander him.
Yeah.
I assume he's gotten much better at cooking.
Oh no,
because
I'm sure
because
he's
I have
better.
gotten much better at cooking. I, as a person who could not cook to save my life at the very beginning of these comics, I assume that everyone has gotten better at cooking.
Yeah, he cooked a little bit while we lived. Anyway, we're just talking about it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so we have our last question, and then we have the 2 closing questions that Sophia is going to ask.
Okay.
So this is a question that I always ask on these chats, and it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite library memory?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to
No,
go?
you go.
Okay. So all throughout my childhood, my mom was actually a librarian.
Oh, I love it.
So I basically grew up in like my town's tiny library. I would be there like on the weekends and stuff. And I have really strong memories of being in the children's section, and I would take out all of the Ed Emberley books, and I would find all of the pre-printed like coloring pages, and I would flip them over, and I would just draw Ed Emberley animals like all over it, and that's like my memory of childhood being
Wait,
in a
all over the book?
no, all over the coloring pages.
Oh, okay.
Like they were like Xeroxed. I don't know,
Gotcha.
like coloring book pages,
I was
and
like,
I would turn it over so that it was like a blank sheet, and I would just draw Ed Emberley characters. It was like I think my favorites were, I really liked the bats, and like I liked the Halloween characters. I remember very clearly his Halloween book. I really liked it.
So it was like a book that was like just Halloween stuff? And
Yes.
A book that was like, because it wasn't just bats, it was like animals?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
He did animals and like vehicles and like holiday stuff, but I really like the Halloween one.
I wasn't familiar with them growing up, but Ed Emberley's stuff is like so
It's
beautiful.
it's so stylish and like instantly recognizable. Our friend Nikki has a tattoo of like one of his instructions.
It's like a
like on
great
her arm.
idea
It's
for
so,
tattoo. It's like
yeah.
really good.
I love his work. Still.
Yeah, he's great. My favorite library memory, I have a lot. So I guess my family like really loved to read. We usually go to the library at least once a week in the summer, and we basically spend the whole day there. So I just like find a book which had like a cool looking cover or something, and I just go sit in one of the aisles and read it. And I'd be there for like hours basically. That was probably my favorite overall memory. I remember as I got older and more interested in comics, I definitely made a beeline for like, I think I said this, I might have said this before we started the stream, but there was a small section for comics. It's on the bottom shelf towards the back of an aisle, and I would make a beeline for it, and it was where they had like Garfield and Tintin and like basically all the newspaper comics and then some European comics. But I think when I say European comics, I basically mean Tintin. And I think part of the reason Tintin in particular was so exciting for me was because I used to go with my family to India every 2 years during the summer, and the only comics that I could find there, but you found like an unlimited number of them, was Tintin and Archie. And so I read so much Tintin and Archie growing up. And I guess reading Tintin in the aisles at the library kind of also reminded me of like staying with my cousins and stuff. So maybe there's something to that too. I don't know. I loved going to the library. It was great. You know what? When I got older, I had to do a research project, and my dad was teaching at a university, and so he had access to the library, so he was able to bring me in. And I remember doing an entire research project at the university library, and that again kind of like rekindled my love of libraries, because it was such a different experience to go in, and like we were doing some NASA contest where we had to design there was like a Mars orbiter and a rover. So the idea was that there was an orbiter that landed a rover and then picked the rover back up. And so I got to go through all these like academic papers and stuff that, I don't know, it was cool. Anyway, yeah.
No, I love it. I love hearing people's memories and their stories and how they grew up with libraries. It just makes me so happy.
Yeah, libraries are awesome. They're the best.
When I was little, this library here had a cat named Elsie. And so even though she hasn't been around for over a decade, a lot of locals have really good memories of her being here.
Oh,
so she was just like, she
The
just
library
lived
cat?
in the library?
Yep.
I think maybe someone
So cool.
like put her in the drop box or something when she was a kitten, like they kind of dropped her off there. And the
Oh my
staff
God.
basically adopted her, and so she just lived here. And I don't know how many years she was here, but I was a child when I remember encountering her at like the checkout.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's great.
Wow. Oh,
Man, every library should have a cat.
yeah.
Now we have little stuffed animals of her, and sometimes we take photos of the stuffed animal around the library, like checking out books about dogs or looking up things on the computer.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
oh,
really cute.
Elsie.
She lives on.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's been a very happy cat. That's awesome.
I guess I'll get to the closing questions.
Sure.
What's next for you? I guess it's kind of a broad question.
Yeah. So right now we are still working on Barbarous. We are posting the end of chapter 5, which is the end of the first book, on johnnywander.com. A page went up today, right before we went on into this interview with you guys. So you can read that for free, johnnywander.com. We are currently working on a couple of collaborative books that the two of us wrote.
And that's where the Tess Stone book is, I think the working title is Greater Secrets. It might change, and that's with a Random House graphic. It's very much like in progress, so I don't imagine it'll be out soon. And then we're working on a really cool book with Jen Doyle, who is also an amazing collaborator. Both of them are, and it's sort of about, it's like about rival photographers in the near future, and it's hard to summarize past that, but kind of
It will be extremely cool.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool.
Both of the books will be great.
And that book is with Abrams, and that one should be out sooner, but again, I don't.
2021-ish.
Yes.
So we'll keep an eye out.
We'll announce more when
yeah.
there's more solid dates.
And then we're also currently working on a game called Fields of Mystery. So
Yeah, we're working on a video game.
This is sort of like a side
Ooh!
thing, but Yuko's working as I was gonna say character designer, but it's more like you're doing character design and also room design, so maybe overall design.
VizDev?
Okay, yeah. You know, like we're familiar with all the terminology for comics, but for computer games, it's a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know what the official positions are called, but I'm working as a writer, so I'm doing a lot of the character writing and stuff. And yeah, we're pretty excited. I think you can read about that at fieldsofmystery.com if you want to check it out. We're working with a really cool and very talented team, so we're like super pumped about that. And then is there anything else really?
No.
I think mostly that about covers it. We're trying to kind of just we have a lot of things going right now, so we're just kind of keep going with that. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, our final question. Where can readers find you, and where can they get your books?
So, shall I?
Sure.
So as I think we mentioned several times before, you can find most of our comics that we mentioned over the course of this interview. You can read them for free online at johnnywander.com. And you can find a lot of our self-published books through our store. If you go to johnnyandwander.com, there should be a store link in the header. You can head over there. I think that there might also be a link to our website and store through this interview as well.
Yeah, that's basically the only place to get our self-published stuff. You can also pick up Our Cats Are More Famous Than Us and Lucky Penny through Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Amazon, or you can get them through your local bookstore, which is a really great way to support your local bookstore. And most importantly, you can find them at your local library, which I'm just going to do a sidebar here. We love, like, when we're at a convention and someone comes up to us and says, we found you through our local library, that's like our favorite thing to hear.
I love
it's like the coolest thing ever. Yeah, and I have, how should I say this? I've come to like appreciate libraries even more because I was not, the first time when we did Lucky Penny, I was not prepared for how many people would come to us and say that.
Yeah.
So many people have found us through their local library, which is just like totally amazing. So
yes,
yeah.
we're indebted to libraries
It's true. Thank you
for connecting so many people to our work. It's been like really incredible and magical to like the number of people who meet us for the first time and say, oh, I got this at my library. Like it's astounding the number of people who will say that to us.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, that's how I ran into your work as well.
Oh, cool.
There was a volume of this at like San Diego Public Library, and I checked it out when I went to Comic-Con.
Oh, cool.
My gosh.
It was like a fateful.
That's awesome.
I'm so
really glad. Can I ask, did the pink kind of grab you from a distance?
Yeah, I think it did.
Cool.
I think it was this version.
Cool.
Yeah, I pulled that and I was like, cats, yes, cats.
Yay, I'm so glad. That's really cool.
Yeah,
What are you looking for?
just any of our pink books. Yeah, we fell in love with this Pantone. This is not a CMYK color. This is actually like a specific ink color that we have to get specially through the printer.
But they're all matched.
Yeah,
It's totally worth it.
But I think part of the reason that I did it originally was just because I thought, if there's a book like on the other side of the store, the other side of the aisle, or the other side of the library, someday the library, hopefully this will like grab the eyes.
Yeah,
it totally stands out.
I love that neon.
All right.
I'm so glad.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I think that is all the places that you can find us.
Yes, support your public library.
Yes, I'll just remind people watching that we have your website, your Patreon, your Ko-Fi store, your Kickstarter, your social media tags, all those links in the description of this video.
Thank you so much. Oh,
awesome. So yeah, thank you to everyone watching for joining us. Thank you to our wonderful, so cute.
Yeah.
He's been yelling at us. I don't know if you can hear. You've been able to hear him. Goodbye, Rook. You're shedding all over.
Thank you to Yuko and Ananth for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, this was
really
blast.
fun. Yeah.
This was so much fun. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you had a good time and we gave you good answers to your questions.
I hope we have sufficiently answered your question. But feel free to tweet at us if you didn't.
I think we'll have some information about.
We'll have this recording on our Facebook and on Instagram,
and YouTube.
And YouTube. So people can watch it if they missed it or had to come in late.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get each other around too.
Yeah.
You can purchase books by these authors from the Ripped Bodice bookstore at the www.therippeddbodiceLA.com. You can also check out books by Ananth and Yuko from our library in print and digital through Hoopla.
Yeah.
You still have time to sign up for our summer virtual reading activity challenge, and reading these books would count as an activity to enter in a raffle. It's free to sign up. All you have to do is complete some virtual activities like watching these author chats, and you can win digital prizes. Go to our website for more information or comment below.
Yes.
Cool.
I'm going to plug really quick because I have a romance book club for the library, and our meeting is August 6th, and we're going to be discussing Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. So there's still time to check it out and read it before the meeting. And we hope to see you back here Saturday, August 1st on Facebook for our next live virtual author chat, featuring author Saeed M. Masood, author of More Than Just a Pretty Face. So thank you again for joining us. We had a blast. We hope you did too. And we hope to see you again.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, take it easy.
You too.
I'm trying to end it.
It's okay.